I beat Dark Souls the other day, and I can't stop thinking about it. I went in completely blind, where I fat rolled, got cursed for half the game, beat Gwyn with an egghead, and never once used lock-on. It was simultaneously the greatest and worst first-time playthrough, and I know now how ridiculous I looked. I want to say sorry to everyone I might have triggered. As bad as my playthrough was, I loved it, and I am officially addicted to Dark Souls. If you're not familiar with this channel, I was a degenerate competitive gamer and recently gave that up so I could experience the greatest games of all time. But since I beat Dark Souls, I haven't been able to move on. Luckily for me, I don't have to. My favorite thing about my life right now is knowing I have several FromSoft games ahead of me. To all of the other games on the list, I'm sorry, but I am officially a Souls player for the indefinite future. But before I jump into Dark Souls 2, it's been brought to my attention that I have missed a substantial amount of content in Dark Souls 1, including the DLC. I was wondering how I missed it, and yeah, there was no way I would have done all this blind. So I'm gonna go do that real quick while I talk to you about why I love the game so much, if that's okay. The problem is, my character is sitting in a cell at the Undead Asylum, so if I want to access those areas, I am forced to replay on New Game Plus. If you told me in the first few hours of my blind playthrough that I would be here again in Undead Burg on an even harder difficulty, willingly, I would have laughed in your face. I was genuinely so close to quitting the first time around. I hated the game, the enemies, the vibes, everything. Instead, I'm doing something I have never done before, replaying a video game immediately after beating it. And I couldn't be happier. In fact, this addiction has gotten so bad that I have now populated my walls with Dark Souls themed posters from Displate, who also doubles as today's sponsor. Do you see this wall? That's a tragically empty wall. I can't think of a better way to fix this issue than with Displates. They are premium metal posters, a modern alternative to paper and canvas photos with over 2 million designs to choose from. Out of the 2 million, I chose these 3 for my office and 1 for the kitchen. Of course, the Dark Souls one I am most excited about. Now, the best thing about Displates are how simple they are to mount on the wall. I can parry the Lord of Cinder without any issues, but when it comes to hanging things on the wall, I am as useless as the pendant gift. I was gonna put up a timer to see how long it took to hang up these on the wall, but finding my phone and putting a timer up honestly would have taken more time than it is to just put these up on the wall. Displate is starting the new year off with some discounts, and I have a personal link where you can get 28% off a purchase of 1 to 2 Displates or 32% off 3 Displates. The link in the description will take you to the website and automatically apply the discount at checkout. Go take a look. I promise you will find a poster that catches your eye. Thanks to Displate for sponsoring the video. I have to mention real quick how awesome the Dark Souls community is. Many of you congratulated me, and I think it's pretty cool that the community rallies behind new players and is quick to welcome noobs like me. I was also surprised to see so much content for Dark Souls 1. I had no idea how popular this game still was. One of the first videos my friends told me to watch was a Dark Souls speedrun. Seeing someone complete the game in under 20 minutes was both fascinating and insulting. There were several tricks I simply did not understand, but the one that made the least amount of sense was the dragon tooth damage on Ornstein and Smough. You're telling me the dragon tooth that I thought was bad can make Ornstein and Smough look as easy as the pinwheel fight? Genuinely, this is what I looked like for pretty much the entire video. But then I saw a video titled World First Zero Damage All Bosses Run. Excuse me, what? I watched the first couple of bosses, then skipped around and simply could not fathom how incredible the feat was. Honestly, it's kind of inspiring and made me realize I was never the chosen undead. This guy was. I'm just here for a good time, but I did feel a bit like a speedrunner myself as I got through Undead Burg without dying and took out the Torn Demon in 3 hits. By the way, I have also learned how lucky I was to get the Black Knight Halberd in my playthrough, and it might have been the sole reason for my success. But let's talk about lock-on and how I never used it. I definitely recall being taught it in a tutorial, but I guess I thought it felt a little restrictive. I didn't like how it affected the camera and shrugged it off, then swiftly forgot it was even a thing for the rest of my playthrough. But since we're starting over, now is a great time to try it out. Oh, I totally forgot I was supposed to use lock-on. Okay, I mean, I can see that being kind of useful. While I am replaying the game, I would like to try and improve as a player. Maybe it's the competitive gamer in me, but there's always some form of desire to get good at a game, and since you can apparently beat Dark Souls by never getting hit, I want to do the same thing for the rest of this playthrough. I'm just kidding, but what I want to do is learn how to beat bosses by dodging alone. The back half of my playthrough was almost exclusively conquered by use of the Havel's shield, which blocked almost all damage, so this time around I want to do things a bit different. Conveniently, not using the shield allows two-handing, which is another thing I ignored in my playthrough. So the goal is to get comfortable without a shield, so I could be a more well-rounded Dark Souls player before heading into Dark Souls 2. The only problem is that habits are hard to get rid of, and the Black Knight's halberd makes for a terrible shield. Also, I don't know what you guys are talking about because the Black Knight halberd must be a 100% drop rate. I've never not got it. Now in this playthrough, I've made a list of things that I want to do, and the first on that list is to grab the red Tearstone ring. I saw somewhere that this ring increases your damage if you're under 20% health, and I figured it might come in handy later on. Also, are we sure that lock-on is helpful? You can see me trying, but whenever I use it, my dodges are worse and the camera control makes movement clunky. I'll keep trying, but I don't know. I also have another item on my shopping list before we get too far into things. The Dark Wood Grain Ring. I've read that this thing gives you 2 extra invulnerability frames, and since I want to dodge more, I figured the ring would help. I was smart this time and remembered to get the crest from Andre before I departed, but I didn't want to pay 20,000 souls for it. I'm sorry to any Andre lovers.
You've got some nerve.
Now, I'm not going to complain about the obscurity of finding items in Dark Souls, but I would pay a lot of money to see the first person's reaction to uncovering never-before-seen loot. To get this ring, you have to join the Cat Covenant, and ironically, you must betray them, which was literally the #1 rule Alvina gave us when joining.
Darest not in any attempt to double-cross.
So whoever found this ring first was clearly rebellious in nature. I actually think it's fun to hide items like this because if you happen to come across them by accident, it makes that item automatically cooler. Before I got too far away from the church and Firelink Shrine, I curled up into a ball and headed back to the Undead Asylum so I could grab the peculiar doll needed to enter the Painted World. It still baffles my mind to think that I would have needed to blindly find my way back to the Asylum, head back to my cell to pick up the doll that was mysteriously placed there, and then realize it gives access to the Painted World. By the way, I'm done. I'm done using lock-on. This shit is whack. It messes with your camera and it interferes with my intended roll direction. I knew this mechanic was bad from the start. Maybe keyboard and mouse nullifies the necessity for it? I don't know. Whoa, I'm already at the doors to Blighttown. I'm aware that there is a more convenient entrance to Blighttown, but I actually prefer this way instead. It is time to visit the Great Hollow and then Ash Lake. I was literally giddy knowing I had an undiscovered location to explore, but I was also mad because I stood in this exact spot in my first playthrough and I didn't realize there was an invisible wall. Are illusory walls supposed to be hard to find? Or is there some sort of indication that I'm missing? I really don't want to miss out on anything in Dark Souls 2, so maybe one of you can give me some insight. The Great Hollow was oddly charming to me, even though I was clenching the entire time, worried about falling to my death. I remember looking down at one point, wondering just how deep does this twisting tree travel? I treasured the feeling of entering the unknown because you can only really do it once in these games. There were tons of items to loot, multiple enemy types, and all the while I was wondering what the lore surrounding this area is. How and why is this here? I did pretty good, making it to the mushroom part before getting my ass kicked by what looked like Toad if he abandoned Princess Peach's castle and started taking drugs. Wow. Whoever said this game is only grotesque and despair-inducing, you aren't seeing it right. This place is magnificent, and I am so glad I came back to see this. Of course, the music is epic as well. It's just so cool that this place exists below Blighttown, and Blighttown exists below the Depths, which exists below the Undead Burg and Firelink Shrine. The Dark Souls 1 world is a deluxe cheeseburger with layers on top of layers. Yes, I'm American, and I just compared this game to a cheeseburger. Before I checked out the rest, I spent 5 minutes killing the Hydra, and another 5 minutes looking around and looting until I found the windy path leading to the dragon. I have a bad habit of attacking NPCs, and that didn't really stop in this playthrough, except this one was unkillable and completely unfazed. I lucked out by moving behind and hitting the tail. I felt bad because I just mutilated this dragon and didn't even use the weapon because it's not as good as the Black Knight Halberd. I spent a few more minutes lingering in Ash Lake, making sure to soak it in before I decided it was time to move on. Thank you guys for recommending that I check this area out. I won't forget it. But also, screw you guys, because now I have to walk all the way back through the Great Hollow because I haven't unlocked warping yet. When I got back up to Blighttown, I took on Spider Boobies, and for the first time since playing New Game Plus, I beat a boss without using a shield and dodged every mechanic. I felt like Aang in Avatar when he fights the Fire Nation jock. I rang the bell after and headed to Sen's Fortress, where I literally sprinted through without any problems whatsoever. What took me maybe 5 hours the first time around just took me 5 minutes. Maybe I have that speedrunner gene inside of me. Now, this cinematic will never get old. You guys cool if we watch it again real quick? Now that we're back in Anderlondo, the painted world is near. I visited this painting in the first playthrough, but of course I didn't have the peculiar doll which lets you enter it. Now, I don't want to spend too much time here because, well, I didn't particularly like this zone. The environmental details were on point, but something felt off. I think the main issue I had was the buildings in the first section. They were mostly empty and annoying to navigate around. It was unintuitive, and no other area in the game so far functioned in the same way. The enemies inside of the buildings were also lame, being mostly rats and skeletons. I didn't feel too threatened, which is an odd way of saying I wish to see something more unique. I had that feeling until I reached the sewers. Like all the tough moments in the game, I got through it eventually, and I got the secret hallway to crossbreed Priscilla. I laughed my ass off at the message on the ground, which just said feet. There's always that one dude who is into feet and won't miss a pair of them when presented. But then she disappeared, and I had no idea what to do. I died, and then I realized she's invisible, but you can see where she is because of the footmarks in the snow. It wasn't just a guy who was into feet, it was a hint, and probably a guy who's into feet. For some reason, I decided to try the red Tearstone ring on this boss. Obviously, that went horribly, and I quickly realized that strat wouldn't fly, so I switched to full Havel armor.
But why?
Well, I just kind of feel terrible now. Overall, I'd say that the painted world was completely okay. Out of the 3 painted realms I've entered since playing single-player games, this was the worst. Oblivion's was classy, with the visuals being the highlight, while The Witcher 3's painted world was an incredible journey that will probably remain at the top of my favorite quest lines of all time. Next up was a rematch against Ornstein and Smough. This time, I parried the archer and pulled off my very first speedrun technique and skipped the entire castle. As quick as it was to get to Ornstein and Smough, I did not expect the fight to go as cleanly, but instead of spending 8 hours getting through them, this time it was 8 minutes, maybe less. Lock-on was helpful here because Ornstein is shifty, so all of you lock-on believers, you're welcome. Killing them wasn't nearly as rewarding, but it was nice to think back and see how much I improved. This time, I made sure to use the Black Eye Orb that I purposely ignored in my first playthrough because I didn't really know what the message was referring to. I killed Lautrec but was taken out by his guards, which I hope doesn't matter, and then I tried on the famous FAP ring. I think the speedrunners use this ring, and if they go out of their way to get this thing during a time trial, I'm sure that means it's worth using. All of this got me thinking about why I appreciate Dark Souls so much. Maybe my opinion is not valued here since I've only played a few single-player games, but I think Dark Souls is the preferred single-player experience. Besides the tutorial, Dark Souls 1 gives you no direction, no advice, and no explanation of most of the in-game systems. It is the ultimate discovery journey. I didn't realize how detrimental a mini-map and pop-up hints were to immersion and exploration. Think how lame it would be that once you reach 10 deaths on Ornstein and Smough, the game displays a message that says, try using the pillars to separate the bosses. I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but the lack of hand-holding is one of the primary reasons why I fell in love with this game so quickly. Of course, that comes at a price when the developers hide the DLC area behind an insane multi-step checklist, but some things will require cooperative effort or a little Googling to solve. I killed the Hydra, killed the Golem, talked to Dusk of Ulasil, and accepted her request for help. I got the broken pendant from the Golem near Duke's Archives and headed back, ready for the DLC. I didn't know what to expect, but a boss fight right off the bat was a great start. The Sanctuary Guardian was much faster than a lot of the other bosses, and I could feel that familiar heart pumping again. My first attempt went pretty well, and I was able to get the Sanctuary Guardian to one hit before I was struck by an attack I hadn't seen before. Then, on my third attempt, I took it down. Overall, I'd say the fight was fun, and certainly made easier by having high health. When I reached the Sanctuary, I could see why he was guarding it. We have come across yet another beautiful place in Dark Souls. I loved the chirps of the owls, the patchy, sunlit ground, and the natural, simplistic environment. Elizabeth, the sweet mushroom lady, was here, and she asked us to once again be the savior and free Dusk. She also mentioned Knight Artorias and how he failed to take down the Abyss. I really like the lore surrounding Darkroot Garden, and I am so glad that the DLC involves it and has similar vibes. I walked out of the Sanctuary and into the open land of the Royal Wood. I wish you could feel how happy I was to be able to explore a new zone. I very much enjoyed my time here, and I was glad that there were new enemies to learn about. Maybe I'm becoming a bit of a masochist, but dying feels good. Like, to be surprised by a mechanic or attack pattern from an enemy is fun. It means I have something to learn, and for me, learning and studying patterns is something I enjoy, especially if it involves a bit of reaction time. I could be describing every gamer in existence, but Dark Souls scratches a specific itch that I can't fully describe. I can 100% see how Souls-like games are considered their own gaming category. This is a unique experience, and I can't wait to play the rest of them soon. Oh my... Oh, it actually scared me. Dude, there's been a couple jump scares, and they've got me. I got lost in all of the fun, and after maybe an hour or two, I don't really know, I think I looted everything and took out every enemy in the Royal Wood. I glanced over the edge of the cliff and saw an old-looking town and was excited that there was still so much to see. I took the elevator down and met the sketchy NPC with the evil laugh, and then I walked to the White Gate by the Colosseum. Knight Artorias easily has one of the better intro cinematics compared to the rest of the fights in Dark Souls. The cinematic did a proper job of inducing fear as I tried my best to take him down in one try, but got baited by the multi-attack spin move. I totally forgot that the last bonfire was all the way back at the Sanctuary, but luckily I set the elevator before beginning the boss fight. The walk back is manageable like this. By the way, does anyone else love the elevator sound effect? Props to whoever sound designed this. Now about this fight against Knight Artorias. I struggled pretty heavily, but like every boss so far, it really is about repetitions. On my fourth attempt, I started to get a feel for the dodge timings and my confidence was increasing. On my fifth attempt, I got hit a few times on the run back, and with my health pretty low, that reminded me about the red Tearstone ring. The theory is you do more damage, which means you spend less time fighting the boss, which means you don't have to perfectly dodge for as long. Maybe this is the way. Alright, for some reason, being low health makes it easy to panic dodge. But once I set my mind on something, I can't be stopped, and killing Artorias while using the red Tearstone ring was something I felt I needed to do, no matter how long it took. That was actually so thrilling. So I have to ask you all a question. In the description of the soul of Artorias, it says in the last paragraph that an unsung hero defeated the Abyss. Is it safe to assume that the unsung hero is me? If that is the case, then this whole story of Artorias and how we intertwine with it is so cool. I'm not even done with the DLC, but it could end right now and I would be satisfied. I love this game. Have I said that enough yet? I figured the next fight was against the dragon that jump scared me earlier, but maybe I was wrong because every time I went down to the big open area, I was blasted with yellow dragon fire. I tried to find a solution, but after a bit, I determined the answer would come later, and I ventured into the Ulasil township. Maybe I'm just becoming a Dark Souls fanboy, but I love this area too. The architecture felt aged and grand, but was clearly being consumed by the Abyss. I really liked how it became darker and more decayed the farther down I traveled. It felt like we were entering dangerous territory. I only have one complaint about the township, and it's that I wish it was a bit bigger. Exploring it was so fun, and I felt like it could have been a larger part of the DLC. I walked back to the locked door with a key and talked to Go, or Goff? One of the two. Kalameet was shot down by a giant arrow which grounded him, but that arrow did not at all weaken him. You know, I didn't realize how slow the non-DLC boss's attacks were until now. Kalameet is fast, has a wide range of moves, and has both gap closers and gap extenders, not to mention a ton of health. But I have discovered that there are two ways of dealing with bosses. You can stay in close range, or you can stay in long range. I decided that the best way for Kalameet was to stay in close range with his stomp attack specifically making for the best openings. But that did not at all mean I was safe. I'm guessing 2 hours later, I was finally familiar with every attack Kalameet had, gaining an overall feel for when to dodge and when to attack. Still, dodging every move was not easy, and I couldn't seem to live long enough to deal serious damage. How could I solve my damage output problem? Ooh, I could upgrade a weapon to plus 15. Oh, yeah, I killed Andre. Well, that leaves one option, the red Tearstone ring. It might sound crazy, but I thoroughly enjoyed killing Artorias with it, and the opportunity to do it once more on a more difficult boss felt like a pleasant challenge. Did I mention I love this game? With Artorias and Kalameet dead, sadly, only one boss remained, Manus. Reaching the Chasm of the Abyss was bittersweet to me. I knew the end of the DLC was close, but I wasn't ready for it to be over. The chasm itself was dark and cryptic, honestly, a perfect end to the adventure. I do have a question about these ghost things. My guess is because they literally look and sound like the humanity item that they are captured souls of Ulasil, left in purgatory and can't escape. Eventually, I made it to the White Fog Gate to Manus' arena at the bottom of the chasm. And there I was, naked, staring straight into the Father of the Abyss. You guys won't believe it, but through absolute sheer luck, I somehow took him out on my first try. Okay, I wish I did that. No, what I did instead was what any normal player would do. I died countless times, got increasingly angry, and felt that the run back was abnormally long and not fair. I mentioned before on Kalameet that I try to figure out if close range or long range is better, and Manus is much easier to handle at long range. He slams his arm into the ground and you can attack it safely after. And after several attempts, I once again decided the red Tearstone ring was the answer. A few tries later, I had this attempt. And that's how killing Artorias, Kalameet, and Manus, each through the power of the red Tearstone ring, taking no hits, was my proudest moment of my Dark Souls 1 experience. When I first uploaded the video, I read a lot of comments that said I needed to go back and do the DLC and visit the Painted World in Ash Lake. I kind of rolled my eyes. You guys were asking me to spend countless hours replaying the game just to go and see a few small areas I missed. But I want to thank you for encouraging me to do it because I absolutely loved every second of it. I am more than excited about heading into Dark Souls 2, and I can't wait to show you all how that goes. But before I end this video, I have one more thing to do. Now Sif is freed and can live out his days in Darkroot Garden, mourning his master in peace. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys soon in Dark Souls 2.